I found out my wife had a second husband because of a child's drawing. It was on her phone, a quick glimpse, no more than a few seconds, but it burned into my memory. A little girl, crayons, stick figures. She'd drawn herself, a tall man with brown hair, and a woman in a blue dress. Underneath it, in shaky handwriting, it said, "Me and Daddy. Mommy says I can draw you too, Liam." That was my name, but I wasn't a father, not yet anyway, and I had no idea who that little girl was, or who her daddy might be, but I was about to find out. My name is Liam Carter. I'm 38, and I work in cybersecurity, not the cool Hollywood kind, mostly infrastructure audits and firewall testing. Quiet, focused, good money. I like it that way. I live in Austin, Texas. I have a decent house, a dog, and a kayak I barely use. Simple things. 2 years ago, I got married. Her name was Zoe. She was smart, charming, and way out of my league. At least that's what I used to think. We met at a tech conference in Chicago. She had her own consulting firm, mostly branding and strategy. We talked during one of those awkward networking sessions and just clicked. She had presence, not just beauty, though yeah, she had that too, but that energy, like she was always on her way to something bigger. She lived in San Diego at the time. We did long distance for a while. Then she moved in with me. After 11 months together, we got married. No red flags, no real arguments. She traveled a lot for client work, especially back to San Diego. But that made sense. Her biggest contracts were based there, or so I thought. We didn't rush things, not exactly. But when you're in your late 30s and someone just fits, you move, you commit, because chances like that don't come twice. Zoe made everything brighter. She had this way of talking, fast, animated, like everything she said mattered. I'm quieter. I listen more than I speak. But with her, I didn't have to say much. She filled the silence, and somehow, that worked for us. She helped me redesign the house, tore down a wall between the kitchen and the living room, said open spaces help people breathe. I believed her. She added touches of color everywhere. Art, rugs, little things I never thought about. Suddenly, my once sterile bachelor house felt like a home. Our home. She loved planning trips we never took, pinned recipes she never made, talked about starting a podcast. She had a million dreams. I was just happy being her anchor. When she traveled, I missed her. She'd send voice messages, photos of hotel lobbies, airport snacks, sunrises from her room. She always looked tired, but radiant, like someone who lived fully, even when running on empty. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it felt real, solid. We had talks about kids. She wanted one someday. Maybe when the San Diego contracts settle, she said. I wasn't in a rush, but the idea of a future with her, that felt right. I was building something, a life, a partnership, trust. I didn't know then. She had already built that with someone else, long before I ever entered the picture. Zoe had this ability to make you feel like the center of the universe, not in a dramatic, attention-seeking way, but in little, deliberate gestures. She remembered names, birthdays, details you'd forgotten you ever shared. The first time she met my parents, she brought my mom's favorite wine and asked about the rose garden she'd mentioned once in passing. My mother adored her. My father said, "That one's sharp. You're lucky." I agreed. Back then, I really thought I was. She handled stress like a professional speaker handles silence, with elegance. When deadlines piled up, she didn't panic. She scheduled, delegated, smiled. Her phone was always buzzing. Clients, assistants, sometimes even people from other time zones at odd hours. She never snapped. She just flowed with it. At home, she was warm, never cold. She wasn't overly affectionate, but she cared in practical ways. She'd buy my favorite cereal without asking, drop off dry cleaning if I forgot, pick up supplements for my migraines. Once I caught the flu, knocked out for a week. She worked from the kitchen table just to be near, made me tea with honey, checked my temperature every few hours, rubbed my temples when I couldn't sleep. And yet, She was guarded. There were things she never talked about. She said her family situation was complicated, that she didn't get along with her parents and hadn't spoken to them in years. No siblings, no photos of her childhood, no close friends from her past. I asked a few times. She always smiled and said, "Some stories are better left in the past." And I let it go. She had boundaries, and I respected them. I thought that was what trust looked like. Giving space, not pushing. But sometimes I'd notice things. Slips, moments. She once got a call late at night. Stepped outside to answer it. She was gone 20 minutes. When she came back in, she said it was a client with a time-sensitive issue in Asia. Another time, she came back from a trip with a new necklace. A simple silver chain with a tiny moon charm. When I asked where it was from, she paused, just for a second, then said it was a gift from a grateful client. I believed her, because Zoe could make a lie feel like a compliment, like you were lucky just to be included. Looking back, I don't know if she was acting or if she just lived in layers. Different lives stacked like folded linens, neatly arranged, never meant to touch. At the time, I thought we were solid, balanced, two professionals who gave each other room to breathe. I didn't see the distance. I didn't hear the silences. But they were there, waiting. We had routines, simple things. Coffee on Sundays, shared playlists on road trips, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. Every Thursday night was takeout and tech. We'd order Thai food, open our laptops, and work side by side in silence. She'd play lo-fi music. I'd glance at her when she wasn't looking and think, this is it. This is home. She'd hum when she concentrated. Sometimes she'd talk to herself, little fragments of strategy or reminders under her breath. I found it adorable, human, real. There were nights she'd fall asleep on the couch, laptop still open, fingers still resting on the keys. I'd cover her with a blanket. She'd stir just enough to whisper, "You're good to me, Liam." "I don't deserve you." I'd laugh and kiss her forehead. "You do," I'd say. "You do." We talked about the future in fragments, not big plans, just passing thoughts. She wanted a garden, not for vegetables, for wildflowers. Something chaotic but beautiful, she said. She wanted a dog, even though we already had one. Dogs need friends, she joked, but never made time to look for one. She said maybe we'd take a long trip someday, South Korea or Iceland. She'd show me Instagram photos of places she'd saved. She built this version of our future like a painter sketches outlines. Soft, tentative, promising. I held on to those sketches. Imagined them full color, permanent. Now I realized she was always passing through. A traveler, not a settler. Looking for whatever version of herself she needed to be, depending on who was watching. Sometimes I wonder if she even knew who she really was, or if she just tried to be everything for everyone, until she forgot which role she was playing. But back then, I loved her, fully, without question, and that was exactly what made me the perfect target. Zoe had a way of making the ordinary feel intentional, like nothing was ever random with her. Every meal, every outfit, every word, it all had weight, and I admired that. She used to say, "Control what you can. Let the rest pass through." That became her mantra. She said it in stressful meetings, during turbulence on flights, even once when we got a flat tire at midnight. She stayed calm, always. I thought she was strong. I didn't realize. Strength can also be a disguise. She rarely talked about her past. I knew she grew up in Colorado, that she moved to the coast for school, bounced between careers. She told me she had a few toxic relationships and was done with chaos. Her version of the past was like a museum display. Neat, curated, sealed behind glass. No fingerprints allowed. She never showed me her social media from before we met. Said she deleted old accounts. Digital clutter, she called it. I didn't push. I respected privacy. Besides, she was here now, in this life, with me. That was enough. We didn't fight, not really. We disagreed about things. House paint, whether to refinance, but never anything deep. When tension rose, she'd simply leave, take a walk, go to yoga, come back calmer. I admired her composure. She never cried, not once in 2 years. And I remember one night I asked her why. We were lying in bed, her back against my chest. She paused before answering. I spent a long time crying over the wrong things, she said. Now I save my energy. At the time, I thought that was profound. Now? Now I'm not sure what she meant, or who she was crying over, or for. She was magnetic in public. Our friends loved her. She could walk into a room and bend the energy like light through glass. My friends joked that I married up. Her friends, the few she introduced me to, were scattered, always from work or through clients. She kept her world compartmentalized. I thought that was just how some people lived. Looking back, there was always a locked door, metaphorical, sometimes literal. She had a drawer in her home office, bottom left, always locked. She said it had old tax records and contracts. Boring stuff, she joked. I never tried to open it. It's funny how love rewires your instincts, things you'd question in anyone else. With her, I dismissed in a breath. Because when someone gives you everything you think you want, you don't notice what they're taking. It started small, the way most betrayals do. Not with a bang, but with a flicker, a subtle shift in rhythm. Zoe left her phone in the laundry room. That alone wasn't strange. We both left things in odd places sometimes. Keys, earbuds, even mugs. But her phone? Zoe never misplaces her phone. It's an extension of her. She was upstairs in the shower. The dryer buzzed. I opened the door to toss in the towels, and there it was, face down. Screen cracked slightly on the corner, one I hadn't seen before. It wasn't her regular phone. That one was still on her nightstand. This was smaller, older, scuffed. I froze. Something about it felt wrong. I picked it up. The lock screen lit up. No passcode. A single notification. A message. Don't forget our museum day next weekend, M. I stared at it for a long time. Then the screen dimmed. I held the phone like it might explode. I told myself it was a client, that M could be Melissa or Martin or some PR rep from one of her campaigns. Zoe had a dozen people she talked to for work. Maybe it was nothing, but then I looked at the gallery. Just a quick glance. Not even scrolling. Just the most recent image. And that was when I saw it. The drawing. The one with the child. It looked hand-drawn on paper. Crayons. A family of 3, mom, dad, and a little girl with pigtails. And under it, in shaky letters, me and daddy. Mommy says I can draw you too, Liam. My name, written by someone too young to spell it perfectly, but close enough. There was no confusion. This child knew who I was. She just shouldn't. The next sound I heard was the shower turning off. Zoe's humming voice through the wall. That casual melody she always sang after rinsing her hair. My heart was pounding, hands sweating, phone still warm in my palm. I placed it back exactly where I found it. Didn't say a word. Didn't confront her. Not that day, not the next, because something deeper had awakened. Not panic, not even jealousy, curiosity. And beneath that, a slow, quiet terror. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I laid beside her in the dark, still and silent, trying to slow my breathing. Her hand rested lightly on my chest. She fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. That little shift, the presence of that second phone, had cracked something open, and now I couldn't unsee it. The next morning, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed her cheek, made coffee, asked about her meetings. She smiled, stretched, said she'd be back late. San Diego again, she added. I might need 2 nights this time. San Diego, of course, the city where she spent half her working life. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied. Just didn't sleep well. She nodded. Didn't press. She never did. That weekend, I waited until she left for the airport. Then I went back to the laundry room. The burner phone was gone. Of course it was. She'd remembered it. She always remembered everything, except when she wanted me to find something. I checked her nightstand. Nothing. No second phone in her purse. No extra charger. No trace. But the image, that crayon drawing of the child, that was seared into my mind. So I did what I was trained to do, what I'd done for years in my line of work. I started searching, not out of rage, not yet, but with precision. I waited for her to fall asleep again. 2 nights later, when she returned. She smelled like a hotel, clean linen and generic citrus. While she slept, I took her primary phone, mirrored it to my laptop, cloned the cloud backup. She'd given me her password once, casually over coffee. I'd never used it, until now. I stayed up all night pulling files, messages, photos, emails, some of it encrypted, but not all. The deeper I went, the colder I got. Dozens of images, none of me, none of us. A man I'd never seen, taller than me, bearded, laughing in every photo, holding a little girl with brown curls and bright pink glasses. The same girl from the drawing. They were everywhere. A school play, a trip to Disneyland, a birthday party with a cake shaped like a mermaid tail. And Zoe, right there beside them, her arms around the child, her lips on the man's cheek. Not client events, not branding campaigns. These were family photos. I checked the metadata, San Diego, time-stamped across the past 2 years. Most taken during the exact weekends she told me she was traveling for work. There was more. A calendar entry, Charlotte's parent-teacher conference, 4 p.m., Lincoln Elementary. A saved contact, David Caldwell. Under relationship, it said, husband. I sat there for a long time, not moving, not blinking, just reading that word over and over. Husband, not ex, not partner. Husband. I wasn't Zoe's only one. I wasn't her anchor. I was the satellite, orbiting something much larger than I'd ever seen. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. The part of me that wanted answers was replaced by the part that wanted clarity. I needed to know everything, not just what, but why. Because Zoe didn't just lie. She built that lie and lived in it. With 2 husbands, a child, and a perfectly balanced web. I wanted to see how far it went and how much of me was even real. I spent the next 3 days unraveling her life. I didn't eat much, didn't sleep much, didn't shower. I moved between tabs, backups, records, open documents. I wasn't just digging, I was investigating, like she was a breach in the system, and I had to trace the source. I found tax records filed under a different name. Zoe Caldwell, same birth date, same face, different life. She'd filed jointly for the past 3 years with David Caldwell. Income from his firm, some investment returns, and one dependent, Charlotte Caldwell, age 6. She hadn't just lied about being single. She'd lied about everything. She was a wife, a mother, a part of an entirely different world. There was a house in San Diego, a pale yellow craftsman with a front porch and solar panels. Her name was on the title, her actual name. I pulled satellite images, zoomed in. There was a bike on the lawn, pink with tassels, a welcome mat shaped like a cat. I looked for any sign, anything that said this was a setup, a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. It was home, her home, just not with me. In one of the photo folders, I found screenshots of airline tickets. Dozens. She flew back and forth like clockwork, every second or third weekend. Sometimes she'd fly back Monday morning before I even woke up, say she went to yoga or had a meeting downtown. Other times she'd be gone from Thursday to Sunday, client summits, business expos. She had alibis for everything, and I bought them, every single one. One email stood out. It was from a private school administrator in San Diego. Hi, Mrs. Caldwell. Confirming Charlotte's enrollment for the fall. Tuition has been received. Orientation is August 15th. Welcome back. It was dated 4 weeks ago. That same week, she told me she wanted to start trying for a baby. With me. I remember her exact words. I think we're ready. I feel it. She smiled when she said it, held my hand across the table at our favorite breakfast place. And I believed her. Because she looked sincere. She always looked sincere. Now I understood why. She didn't see it as lying. Not exactly. To her, she wasn't choosing between lives. She was living both, fully, simultaneously. In one version, she was a branding genius with a stable husband and a house in Austin. In the other, a mother and wife with a PTA schedule and a shared Netflix account. And she played both roles so well, I almost admired her for it. Almost. But admiration was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I needed to know how far it went, how much of what she told me was real, and how much was part of the act. So I found him. David Caldwell. He worked at a mid-sized tech firm in San Diego. Lead systems architect, public LinkedIn, a photo with a proud dad mug on his desk. I stared at his face, the same one from the pictures. Kind eyes, soft smile, no idea. He didn't know. He was me, in another house, living another lie. And I wondered, how many versions of Zoe existed? And how many of us were still under her spell? I wasn't angry. Not then. Not even when I saw the photos of her kissing him, holding their daughter, smiling like she meant it. I wasn't heartbroken either. That came later. What I felt in that moment was disbelief, a quiet, paralyzing sense that nothing in my life had ever actually been real, that every decision, every moment of laughter, every quiet night in had been a scene from someone else's screenplay, and I was just an extra. I tried to tell myself there had to be a reason, something, anything. Maybe she was in an open marriage. Maybe they had some kind of arrangement. Maybe David knew about me. So I kept looking. I opened her old browser sessions, pulled location data from synced apps, checked notes, calendars, even reminders. She had 2 Amazon accounts, 2 Instacarts, 2 digital lives, each one carefully curated to avoid overlap. Even her email signatures were different. In Austin, Zoe Morgan, founder, Morgan Brand Studio. In San Diego, Zoe Caldwell, creative director, freelance. Same font, different name, different world. She had matching weekend routines. In both places, she liked almond milk lattes. She wore the same perfume. She used the same brand of shampoo. It was like she'd copied herself into 2 households, one version for each man, like tabs open on a browser. What stunned me wasn't just that she got away with it. It was how easy it was. She didn't use burner phones for secrecy. She used them for convenience. She didn't hide photos behind passwords. She just assumed we wouldn't look. She didn't build firewalls because we trusted her. And that was the genius of it. She didn't need to be perfect, just present, charming, busy. And both of us, David and I, gave her the space to operate. We filled in the blanks ourselves. We justified everything she didn't explain. Because when you love someone, you help them lie to you, even if you don't realize you're doing it. But now I was wide awake, and I wasn't helping anymore. One note in her iCloud caught my eye. It was titled simply, "What if it all ends?" I opened it. It was short. If either one finds out, deny everything. Say it was an emotional affair. Say we were separated. Say whatever they need to hear. Do not let them meet. That was the moment I stopped looking for explanations. Stopped wondering if it was just a misunderstanding. That note wasn't panic. It was planning. This wasn't chaos. It was control. And she knew exactly what she was doing. I stared at David Caldwell's email address for a long time. It felt intimate. Reaching out to him would change everything. Not just for me, but for him, for his daughter, for whatever version of Zoe still lived in his mind. But he deserved to know, even if it wrecked him, even if he hated me for it. So I wrote the first message carefully. No accusations, just facts. Subject, something important you need to see body. Hi, David. I know this is going to sound strange, and I truly mean no harm. My name is Liam Carter. I believe we're both married to the same woman. I have photos, documents, and proof I'm willing to share, privately, respectfully, and only if you want to see it. I'm not here to cause chaos. I just think we both deserve the truth. I'll wait for your reply. Liam, I sent it, then sat back and waited. He replied 6 hours later. It was short. We need to talk. Tonight. Call me. He left his number. My hands shook dialing it. I don't know what I expected. Maybe rage, maybe tears. But when he picked up, his voice was calm, measured, tired. He didn't ask who I was, didn't scream, didn't deny it. He just said, "How long have you known?" I told him. Everything. The photo, the drawing, the flights, the emails. There was silence on the line. Long, aching silence. Then he sighed, said, "She told me you were her business partner, that you helped with her campaigns." He laughed, not out of humor, out of exhaustion. "I even thanked you once," he said, "for making her life easier." I felt sick. We talked for over 2 hours, compared calendars, receipts, messages. Our timelines overlapped for nearly 18 months. She'd bounce between us with terrifying efficiency. Weekends, holidays, even their daughter's birthday. Zoe told me she was at a seminar in Denver. That night, she sent me a photo of a hotel bed and Thai takeout. David sent me the real photo. Zoe blowing out candles next to a 6-year-old with frosting on her nose. "She's got a system," he said. I thought I was crazy for suspecting anything, but I never imagined this. Neither did I. We didn't cry. We didn't rage. We built a timeline, a spreadsheet. We even color-coded the events. 2 men, same betrayal, same enemy. It felt surgical, like 2 survivors picking through the rubble of a shared wreckage. "She always said I overthink everything," David said. "Turns out I didn't think enough." We were quiet for a moment. Then I asked, "What do you want to do?" He paused, then said the words I'd been holding in my chest for days. "Let's end this. Together. Properly." It started like a project plan. 2 columns, Liam and David, each with tasks, timelines, shared drives, evidence folders. We weren't 2 angry men. We were 2 professionals, organized, focused, precise. We didn't want to destroy her. Not recklessly. We wanted truth. To place it in her hands, force her to hold it, and watch what she did with the weight. Our first move was containment. We stopped responding emotionally. No more questions about her travel. No more glances at her phone. We became perfect husbands. Predictable, supportive, quiet. We gave her no reason to pivot. No reason to shut down, run, or rewrite the script. She had to believe we were still under, still fooled. David took Charlotte out of town for a long weekend. Grandparents. Zoe thought it was a vacation. Really, it was cover, a way to keep the child out of the blast zone. Meanwhile, I invited Zoe to a client retreat in Sedona, a branding summit I invented out of thin air. I booked the venue, designed the itinerary, even mocked up fake event pages, all for her. She was flattered, said she'd been needing a break, said I was thoughtful. I smiled, so did David. We chose Sedona because it was neutral ground, beautiful, quiet, far from both homes, and far enough from the people who loved her to hear the crash. David booked the Airbnb under a shell name. 2-bedroom villa, private patio, enough space for a confrontation, but not an escape. We flew in the night before, met for the first time in person. It was strange, like meeting your own reflection, only slightly older. David looked tired. So did I. We shook hands. Neither of us smiled. "Let's finish it," he said. We prepped the villa, set up 2 chairs, a screen, and a table with a single folder. Printed emails, flight itineraries, photos, no commentary, just facts. I created a short video montage from her cloud accounts. Clips of Zoe in both lives, birthday hugs, business selfies, kisses that looked identical but landed on different mouths. We edited it down to 4 minutes. Clean, unemotional, undeniable. The next day, Zoe arrived, wearing linen, sunglasses, a wide smile. She kissed me on the cheek, looked around. "This place is beautiful," she said. "I needed this." "I know," I replied, and guided her inside. She didn't notice David right away. He stood at the far end of the room, quiet, still. She placed her bag down, turned toward the chairs, and stopped cold. Her eyes found the signs. Husband number 1, husband number 2. Then the screen, then the silence. She blinked, once, twice, said nothing. So I pressed play. 4 minutes, no voice, just music, images, truth. When the video ended, she still hadn't moved. No tears, no collapse, just stillness. Then she laughed. A short, dry laugh. So you teamed up. David's voice was flat. You lied to both of us. I gave you both what you wanted, she said. No, I said. You gave us each half a life and kept the rest for yourself. She looked down, then at the folder on the table. She didn't open it. She didn't have to. We handed her 2 envelopes, one from me, one from David, annulment papers, custody petition, asset freeze notices. She didn't speak again. She walked out of the villa 20 minutes later. No bag, no sunglasses, just silence, and we never saw her again. We didn't say much after she left, just sat there. 2 chairs, 2 cups of cold coffee, the hum of an air conditioner filling the silence. David rubbed his face with both hands, then stood and walked outside. I followed. The Arizona sun was brutal, but the air felt clearer than it had in days. We didn't need to speak. The moment had landed. What needed to be done was done. That evening, we went our separate ways. David drove back to San Diego. He'd already filed the motion for emergency custody. His lawyer had copies of the documents. Charlotte would be protected. I flew home to Austin. Zoe didn't come back. She didn't call. She didn't write. I think in some twisted way she'd prepared for that. That one day it might all fall apart. Maybe that note, the one in her cloud, was more than a backup plan. Maybe it was a prophecy. I emptied her side of the closet, left everything in sealed boxes, changed the locks, closed the joint accounts. I wasn't vindictive. I was finished. A week later, I sold the ring. 2 weeks after that, I filed to annul the marriage. She didn't contest. Her consulting clients started to drop off. I'd sent one polite email to a mutual contact, asking if Zoe would be attending an upcoming event. I CC'd David. No commentary, no accusations. But people talk. And in her industry, trust is everything. She disappeared from social media within a month, deleted her profiles, or maybe started new ones. New name, new town, new story. The silence after her exit was strange. Not painful, but surreal. Like coming up for air after swimming in murky water for too long. Light felt different. So did food. So did sleep. For a while, I waited for the anger to hit me, but it never really did. I felt free, not triumphant, not proud, just done. She never apologized. I never asked her to. And David? We kept in touch. Not often, but enough. He got full custody. Charlotte's doing well, he says. Still drawing, still bright. Sometimes I wonder if she remembers me. If she asks her dad why she drew a picture for someone named Liam, and if he tells her the truth. Maybe someday he will. Or maybe he'll just say I was someone who helped, and leave it at that. I don't hate her. People expect me to. But I don't. Hate requires space in your heart. Energy. Heat. And I've burned enough already. What I feel now is something quieter. Not peace exactly, but distance. Like watching a city fade in the rearview mirror. One you lived in too long. One you'll never return to. I think about the moments more than the lies. The way she looked in the morning light. The way she hummed while typing. The way she made life feel curated. I don't believe any of it was real, but I remember it anyway. And maybe that's okay. Not every memory has to be true to be part of your story. Sometimes survival means accepting the chapter and still turning the page. I learned that silence is where lies live. Not the big loud ones, the quiet ones, the ones no one questions. She never needed to scream to deceive me. She just smiled, said she loved me, said she was tired, said she'd be back soon. Now when someone says soon, I pay attention. When they smile too easily, I watch the corners of their mouth. When they say, don't worry, I worry. But I'm not bitter. I'm just sharper now. And alone isn't the same as empty. I know that for sure. Because the silence I have now, the real silence, it doesn't lie. It just lets me breathe.